Welcome to the Agents of Innovation podcast, where we feature conversations with entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and artists. Okay, we are back on the Agents of Innovation podcast. I'm your host, Francisco Gonzalez. Welcome back. You might recognize this guy. I had him actually back on episode 111, the one and only James O'Keefe. James and I, we go back 20 years. If you want that full story, you can go back to episode 111. What we're here to talk about today is James has done something really monumental here. He just released his first ever full-length feature film called Line in the Sand. It's now available on the Tucker Carlson Network. And James, I just want to welcome you back to the Agents of Innovation podcast.
Great to be with you, my friend.
Well, James, tell us a little bit. I mean, I watched the film the other day. I mean, my quick impression to everybody is this is insane. I mean, obviously a lot of us have seen the news about what's going on the border, but James went beyond the border, and he and a couple other of his colleagues actually went to central Mexico and embedded with the migrants, which means they also embedded with the cartel, which is insane. James, tell us a little bit about this experience and what we might expect when we watch Line in the Sand.
Well, I think a lot of movies, a lot of political documentaries are, they preach to you, they interview these people, they talk about these issues, but they're kind of boring, and many of them are not, they're not very entertaining. This is a very unusual movie in that it is technically a documentary, but it's not really a documentary. It's reality. In all of its absurdity and irony and danger and humor and tragedy, just interlaced, woven together in this story that's all real. These are real immigrants that I embedded with, Venezuelans, journeying on this train, going up from Mexico to the border. The real cartel, you see their face close up, threatening me, saying they need to make money, cutting through the steel beam as the Border Patrol agent watches, me confronting the Border Patrol agent, him driving away. It's just this nonstop hour and 40-minute adventure that takes you on the journey they take all the way to their final destination in New York City, where we go to Randall's Island, and we encounter the police officers, and we encounter the people stamping fake residency documents caught on tape. They confront me. So it's kind of like what I do on steroids, and I've been told that this film is highly original, and there really isn't anything to compare it to. It's very rare that you see hidden cameras in a movie anyway, but to see it like this, it's kind of I'm embarking on a new journey.
Someone I was watching the film with actually remarked, as you're crawling through these caves in New Mexico that are part of some of the places that the migrants are kind of forced to go and told to go to kind of get across the border, it was captivating television. It was captivating theater as I'm watching, but it's real life, as you said. And someone that was watching with me said, why hasn't CBS done this? Wouldn't this be captivating for their audience? Why do you think no other journalist or no other network or anything media outlet has done something like this, James?
I mean, I wrote a whole book about that. That's American Muckraker. That's a long conversation. In 30 seconds, a lot of it's economics. A lot of these networks don't want to invest in journalism. There is no money in journalism. It's incredibly cost intensive. And I think a lot of these corporations, frankly, a lot of political folks, they preach to the choir. They give, I call it, forgive me, conservaporn. They give the thing to the audience that they want to hear rather than preach to the people who don't agree with them. So a lot of these news organizations would rather not spend the money and the time, take the risk, where it creates liabilities, it creates problems. You're shaking the tree, you're shaking the apple cart, whatever metaphor you want. It's easier to just talk about things and kind of share your opinion with your audience, or not to be a first mover, not to be a shaker, not to be an effector of events, but rather just to respond to things. So, but this film does not just react to things; it moves things. You catch people on tape doing things they don't want to acknowledge that they're doing. So, I think that's dangerous. I think that's risky. It's a risky business, and that's why no one's doing it.
So one thing that really struck me is through every part of the process, starting down in Mexico to the border patrol, to everybody in those places that you saw in New York and California, it seems like there's a ton of negligence. Just people like you kept seeing people saying, "I'm just doing my job," right? But then there's also a lot of malfeasance. There's people just making money off these poor migrants who. Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, just about the kind of human condition that you experienced throughout this whole thing.
It's all about money. That was actually a little bit of a surprise to me. I think because I tend to think that these people are trying to help people and get a better life. And if you look at the left and the right, the left tends to own the virtue that surrounds the border, right? They're trying to bring people in, bring us your teeming, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the thing on the Statue of Liberty. Of course it's virtuous, right? They kind of have a monopoly on virtue. But the movie kind of inverts that a little bit because, yeah, well, when you have 500,000 children, 300,000 unaccompanied little girls and boys, and 10% of those are getting raped and trafficked, and the government knows about it, and they're funding it, it's a little more complicated, isn't it? And it doesn't come at it as an anti-immigrant. We actually come at it as pro-immigrant. In other words, I think the film is probably more bleeding heart than it is right-wing in the sense that it's... do you see any other news correspondents, like you said, riding the trains with the Venezuelans and climbing through tunnels and face-to-face with it's not a thing. It is no matter. You do have a couple YouTubers doing it, and they're in the film. Anthony Rubin is in the film. Taylor from the Rio Grande Valley. They inspired me. But I don't think there's anything been done like this. And I don't think people realize, Francisco, that the United States government, Health and Human Services, is $1 trillion agency. And they're funding all of this. They're giving money to Catholic charities. I didn't know that Catholic Charities of California was getting funded by the Department of Homeland Security. So I think I think the film A Line in the Sand is emotionally overwhelming for people. It's intellectually overwhelming. It's a tour de force, and bottom line is, it does seem like money has a very corrupting influence when it comes to the border crisis.
And you really do a great job following the money trail. What I love about the film is you are embedded in Mexico. You're on the border on both sides, literally on the actual border. You go to these so-called charity organizations in California and New York. You also get the documentation, like you show on the screen the exact amount of money going to the exact amount of places that you're visiting. You have some experts in the film as well that you interview in other settings that kind of, everything just moves so fast in this film, and it kind of moves back and forth a lot. Yeah. So it's high pace. There's a lot of action. As your friend of 20 years, James, I knew you had already made the film and you were nice and comfortable at home at this moment, but watching you get on a moving train in Mexico that is basically being guided by cartels, I was like...
Feels like something you would do, but not in that context, right? Maybe a moving train. We're in a nice place. It's not as easy as it looks. For example, I'm fairly athletic, but I would say it was rather difficult. It's very dangerous, you get your legs chopped off. In fact, they told me that babies, this is horrific. The mothers they got these mothers with babies on their chest. You see them. And on some of these grain cars, there isn't actually a platform. So they'll throw their kid up. It'll get mutilated. So it's really, really barbaric. This is not a humanitarian situation. And I was out of breath as I got a 50-pound backpack. These mothers are carrying 2 gallons of water. They got their kids. So they got about 30 pounds or whatever they got. And some of them don't make it. And I think it's one of those things in life where, Francisco, a lot of people say, well, what's the point of this? We all know things are corrupt and rotten. I don't agree with the premise. I think that sometimes you need to experience something or witness something to properly understand it. There are certainly thousands, tens of thousands of border imagery that we've all seen. But you haven't seen this because you have to experience it. You have to understand what it's like to go through the hole with the cartel watching you, guns pointed at you. And by the way, what's interesting about the cartel is those guys in the film that I'm face to face with, they retreat about 50 feet, but there's people behind them with guns saying, "You better finish this job or we're going to kill you." So put yourself in their position. I mean, the whole thing is just completely broken, and the government of the United States is funding it. That's the mind-blowing thing.
We're funding it. That's what that means.
I'm funding it, and that's why this film is so emotionally overwhelming for people. Because it's all real. It's not actors and screenplays. It's reality.
Well, I love your comment there, and you said it in the film too, that people actually, you can't just watch something on TV or read about it in a newspaper. You got to actually experience it. Fearless Journeys, we do a lot of group trips for that reason, right? And you and I have done some great travel together in different places, and it's different when you're actually somewhere else and you're experiencing it. I can't imagine. I was thinking, speaking about a fearless journey, James, getting on that train, that moving train, I don't know if that's something on one of our next group adventures I'm going to offer. I'd have to have a major liability waivers.
Like it's something that you would offer in a theoretical world where it was safer, but the danger there's the physical danger. Like, let me give you one quick story. We had to walk miles and miles down these train tracks because no one knows exactly when the train and where it's going to come every day. And we're walking down the train track, and Taylor, who is probably as insane as he is brave, and I mean that as a compliment, he goes, "There's a guy with a machete walking down the track wearing like Ninja Turtle black armor," and I'm like, "This is not good." And Taylor's like, "Okay, hide." I'm like, "What? Hide? What? There's no place to hide. There's no bush there." So we got in the edge of the area and we laid on our backs, hoping this ninja man would not see us. I'm like, this is insane. But I guess also too, sometimes in life you need to come close to death to appreciate life itself. And I remember praying. I have this was given to me by a Border Patrol agent. It says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." I wore this on the train. I remember, "Please just let me survive this weekend." This is Memorial Day weekend, by the way. Let me just get out of here alive. And fortunately for us, we were detained, which is ordinarily very dangerous because these people in Mexican National Guard are usually not to be trusted. But thank God, there
was a lot of revealing information in your film, like when some of the Mexican National Guard, I believe, was telling you they were funded by the United States. Like,
yeah, I didn't know that.
There was just a lot of stuff in there.
Every single minute of this film, someone is going, yeah. So what you're talking about is this scene where I'm in it. You can't make this stuff up. I'm in a detention van in Mexico. They've arrested me, and then they figure out that I'm press, but they don't know that I'm recording them because I got a hidden camera in my watch. And he's like, "Yeah, well, they pay for the United States pays our salaries. And we make a good living, and we have nice equipment because your tax dollars are paying for it." Every 60 seconds of this film, someone is telling me that they're making all this money, and lost in this entire crisis is any semblance of a conversation about morally right and morally wrong. Nobody cares about the kids or like the problem. No. It's my pension, my pocketbook, my payment. One guy in Texas running the buses, he's like, "We need the illegal immigrants to keep coming so that I can keep making $28 an hour driving them around."
Yeah, so all the way down the line, right? Like from the train ride to everyone's making money on the whole thing, and everyone's looking the other way. And some people are like, I thought, maybe the most crazy thing was when you went to that Episcopal church in New York, Pedro Rodriguez, the guy there, who's charging immigrants $600 just to process them, and somehow they're getting a residency card.
Yeah.
And you had the migrants actually on camera with you, telling you, they felt like they were getting ripped off. They thought they were going to a church, a place of worship, a place of God. These people are coming from Latin America,
and then
they have a lot of strong values.
And then this Pedro Rodriguez guy says that I'm a villain because I'm, quote, attacking a church of God. And I said, "I'm not attacking you. I'm asking you, you're illegally stamping addresses for people who are not even there. That's not legal." And he's like, "You're attacking God." You can't make any of this up. And I don't think people realize it. I think most people don't pay attention. We do, but half of the American people don't even care about politics.
But even for somebody who pays attention, like myself, this was alarming to see a lot of this. I think what you hit on before, this has a lot of empathy for the migrants in the film, especially the children. I think you want to cry at some moments in this film when you see these 6-year-old girls, 10-year-old. I mean, they're just by themselves. They're lost. Nobody seems to care. Yeah, and then you've got the detention centers that are like people are being paid by our tax dollars to like house these kids. Where are the other kids going? I mean, there's so many crazy things in this film. This is being done under our watch. We're paying for this. And so I think you're doing an amazing job as an independent journalist with OMG, O'Keefe Media Group, doing this work and taking this from just, I mean, you've done, James, you do hundreds of investigations. Every time I turn around, someone's like, did you see James's last? I go, I can't keep up. It's too much. But this is your most phenomenal work that I've ever seen. I've known you for 20 years, all the way from the Lucky Charms, all the way to this.
This is a different level though, because this is a theatrical film. Most of what I do is YouTube. We do covert interviews at restaurants. I confront people, but this is like a whole through line. And it took me a year to do this. It took me 6 months to film it and 6 months to edit it. 7 foreign languages, 1,000 hours of footage. So, and it was
James,
very.
I know we're coming close to just the time that I know you got to get going here, but I do want to ask you something. When you make a film like under these intense pressures, you were just literally months ago embedding with the migrants and the cartel, and this is already out as a full film. We live in a whole new world of innovation where you can get the film out in different ways. There's a lot of distribution channels. You partnered with the Tucker Carlson Network, which, they charge like a $9 monthly fee. You can be a member for a month, or you could be a member for a year. I think it's less if you're for a year per month. But if you want to maybe just quickly explain, like maybe just how how you got that process with the Tucker Carlson Network to be able to release your film that way.
Well, I'm very grateful for him. He's, in my opinion, got the biggest name there is and the biggest platform there is. I think he's got the #1 or #2 podcast. He's up there. And I've known Tucker for 15 years. Since the Daily Caller, he helped me out then when we did that NPR story. You remember that one, Francisco?
Yes, that's right.
So I know him and his colleague Neil, and we have a mutual attorney friend, and I talked to this attorney about this, and I didn't know, but the attorney worked for Tucker. So the attorney provided it to them, and they loved it. They thought it was very compelling. So it's on his platform. We've got an exclusive with him here for the next 2 months, and it's doing very well. It's a subscription platform, so the only way that you can watch this film is to go to tuckercarlson.com and click on Line in the Sand. It's $9 or whatever it is, and you can watch it. And I think it'll start building momentum. Like Matt Walsh's film was the only example of a film truly that I enjoyed coming out of the conservative cause, because I think a lot of these films tend to be so political and preachy, but I think it'll build momentum. And you talk about innovation. I think the content is innovative here. I think it's a very unique movie. But I think partnering with Tucker is going to get it tremendous marketing and publicity because of what he stands for. And we both fired. He was fired from Fox a month after I was fired from Project Veritas. So we're kind of blood brothers, I suppose, in that regard. And then longer term, perhaps theatrical, as well as on Amazon and wider distribution.
Yeah, so by the way, $9 to join that for a month. That's less than you would go pay for a movie ticket in the theater. So sit home and watch it. I put it on the Roku, the Tucker Carlson Network, and watch it on the big screen in my house here. So it was phenomenal, very gripping. You have a lot of cool stuff in there. I love near the end you have you cite Dante from Dante's Inferno, right? And so it was just a lot of interesting things going on in this film. But again, James, I mean, when we talk about fearless journeys and fearless people, I don't think I know anybody more fearless in my life than you. And I think I said this to you a few weeks ago when I saw the trailer. I said, I can't tell if you're brave or insane.
That's what I just said. Maybe I was quoting, but I will say this, that you and I went to Peru together years ago. and you're very well traveled. So we'll have to start thinking about what country I go to next to investigate. What, like Cuba or something? I'm just thinking out loud. Eastern
Well, you
Europe.
won't be able to say that out loud. Yeah, to go to Cuba. So I was just in
Well, I'll
Cuba for the
list a
first
bunch
time
of
in
things.
January. I think what we need is we need like a whistleblower, fearless journeys. Secretive trip with James O'Keefe, and people can join that. So
Yeah, let me know if
we'll
any of
see.
your audience members want to join us. It's I feel like we're divinely protected in some regard, like no weapon formed against us shall prosper. I felt that. There's been a lot of prayers for us, and I just want to thank everyone for their prayers, their moral support. When truth is like Zach says in the film, The Border Patrol, when you've God in your heart, you have nothing to fear. There's really that kind of ethos within our ranks, and I think that's protected us. We've got some really good people, and thank God I've got really good people around me now, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, there's a lot to be said about putting having faith over fear. So I think you can say that in a way. Well, James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
For those again who have not seen it, you can find the Line in the Sand on the Tucker Carlson Network, and we'll put some of that in the show notes as well. So thanks, James, and thanks for all you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Francisco. Talk to you.
Bye bye.